Good afternoon. I want to welcome everybody here today, particularly those of you from Ocala, part of the Top of the World community. I'm looking at the lovely Pat Snable here, who is so close to Bill. I want to begin by just expressing condolences to the members of the family, the surviving members, eldest brother Mark, Rex, and this lovely woman, my wife, Kay, Bill's daughter. Our hearts go out to you during this time. Today we're here to remember Bill Eberle. Bill was a Buckeye. He was born in Akron, Ohio. Grew up in the Dover area. He, after he graduated from high school in Dover, it was 1943, he went into the war. He nobly served our country during 3 years. When he came back, he married his high school love, Colleen. He went on to college, of course, Ohio State University. Bill was an Ohio State fan, or excuse me, Mark, the Ohio State.
That's right.
Right to the last days. He was very happy, extremely happy, 2 weeks ago when Ohio State beat Penn State. He was not around, of course, to see what happened last week.
Thank God.
Right. After Bill finished college, he continued to stay in Ohio. He worked in the television and radio industry primarily as a salesperson, selling advertising time for TV and radio stations, and was very successful. At college, he had majored in communications and broadcasting, and he was actually number 2 in his class. And the fellow that was number 1, I believe, was Jack Buck, who went on to have a few follow sports, of one of the most distinguished sports broadcasting careers in our country. And Bill came right after him, but he went into the sales end. He was so successful that he was able to retire in 1990, and that's when he came here to Florida. And he lived the last 27 years of his life here in Florida, beginning in Ocala here at Top of the World. And those truly were some of the happiest, most fulfilling years of his life. Shortly before Bill passed, I was just thinking about him. And I try to, when I think of people as a minister, I'll oftentimes be reminded of a Bible verse. And the verse that we put in your program is the verse that really spoke to me about him at this stage of his life. It's from 2 Timothy 4, where the Apostle Paul writes that the time of his departure was nearing. And we had sensed that, my wife and I, particularly for the last 6 months, when he was able to move from Ocala down to Tampa. At first he stayed in our home, and then from there he had been in an assisted living facility for the last few months. So the time of his departure was drawing near. We could all see it and sense it and feel it. And yet then the apostle continues in what he writes to say, he talks about how he finished his course, how he had kept the faith, and that also how he had fought the good fight. And I just thought that was so fitting for Bill, that here was a man that did all 3 of those things, that what was his course in life, he truly completed. And he was a man that kept his faith. He was a Christian man from his youth. When he was in Zanesville, after the war, he was involved in actually the founding of a new Methodist church in the area as one of the founding members. And he also kept the faith and demonstrated the faith by the way he raised his 3 beautiful children, who are all strong Christians. And they all have memories of their father reading Bible stories. I think Mark told me today that his favorite was the David and Goliath, that his father told that story. He kept the faith. And it wasn't so much that he talked about the faith, but he lived it. He lived it in a way he cared for others. The love and the respect, so responsible. He finished his course. He kept the faith. And just as with the Apostle Paul, I believe we can say with Bill, now there is laid up for him a crown of righteousness. You know, one of the beauties of the Christian faith is the promise of everlasting life. Jesus himself said, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me shall live, even if he dies. What a glorious promise. The apostle in the New Testament talks about how in the twinkling of an eye and the sound of a trumpet, an enormous change is going to take place where these bodies that are perishable, these bodies that are corruptible, these bodies that are flesh are going to be transformed. And the corruptible shall become incorruptible. The perishable will become imperishable as we continue on in eternity with the Lord and with our loved ones. Speaking of loved ones, at this point, I want to have the three surviving siblings. I believe we're going to start with the youngest, Rex. We're going to share their hearts, and then after they're done, if any of you here today have a short story, an expression you'd like to make, we're going to make time for you as well. But let's begin with Rex.
I'm the third and youngest child of my father. And I just wanted to thank you all for coming out to honor my father's life. Thank you so much. And I thought I would wear his hat that you recognize.
Yeah.
Because I could never fill his shoes. And my job today is to talk a little bit about the younger years. And, you know, my father, of course, was in sales, very creative, very smart. And I'll tell just a little short story on this. But he had a client that could not break into the big grocery market. It was actually called Cane's Potato Chips. And they just had like maybe gas stations and small shops. And they tried for years unsuccessfully to break into the big market. But Wild Bill had a wild idea, and it worked. And my dad got the company into the big market. So that I'm very, proud of it. It just shows his creativity and how good he was at his job. He founded a charity called Newsies. Mm-hmm. And so he was very active in community and charity. And a story that I don't remember, but my mother told me about was there were some neighbors, I think maybe 2 or 3 children during the wintertime, they didn't have any coats. So, they were outside, no coats, okay? Because they were too poor. So my dad asked them to get in the car, and they went to the store, and he bought them coats. And that just shows his heart, that he's compassionate, and he cares about people and children. And that, is something that I always admired in him. He's a very good man. Of course, now if you did something like that today, just, you'd get arrested, But it just shows the innocence that we had back then, Times have changed. So, He was very good and very into his children, such as scouts. We did Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts first, and then Boy Scouts. Very active, and appreciated that. And we played baseball all the time, and he was a coach. And he spent a lot of time with us, to improve our game. And we really, that meant a lot to us, as a father. And then he even built a fort in our backyard. We were the only family that had a fort in all the community, and it was my dad. Okay, so the neighbors would come, Now, that would be for my brother and I, of course. Now, I don't know if my sister felt slighted for that or not, but, if you know my dad, he's not into building dollhouses. Okay? So, but I'm sure he did things for Kay, too. So he's, he was just a very, good, generous man, and at times, he could maybe appear to be, a little harsh, but it was good, because he corrected me and taught me things, and I should. That's what children need, and unfortunately a lot of them aren't getting that today, so I just appreciate having been raised in that generation, My dad was very, very good in that. So I guess that's pretty much, my brother's gonna take over from here, I think, and thanks again. God bless you all.
Rex. Nice job, Rex.
Well, my father, I had, like I told somebody, I knew him all my life. So not being around is going to be a big change to me. And I loved my father, and not only did I love him, but I respected him. And a lot of reasons that I loved him. Probably the main reason I loved him was because he loved my mother. And also, he was, as Rex said, he was very engaged. He built a pitcher's mound in our backyard so I could practice pitching, and this fort that Rex talked about, it had a lookout tower, it had gates, it had a jail, so it was just a very cool fort. And he did go camping with us and sleep in tents and, showed us how to play baseball. And he raised me to be a Ohio State fan, and I have 3 boys, but unfortunately one of them is not an Ohio State fan, so I have to just accept that. But he also taught me about politics, taught me about caring for other people, serving other people, and being mindful of other people. The other reason I respected him was just his service that he gave to the country. He just loved his country, and he realized the country wasn't perfect, but he still loved the country. And when I was 18, graduating from high school, I was thinking about going to college. And as what he said when he was 18 and graduating from high school, he said a rich uncle of his had other plans. And that rich uncle happened to be Uncle Sam. So Uncle Sam sent him on a long trip to Africa and to Europe. And when I was 19, I was in his class and spending time with my friends. But I'd like to read a short paragraph from a book. It's about the Battle of Monte Cassino, which was in Italy. And it mentions my dad and his experience there. It says, during 2 days of fighting near the mount, there was large range artillery shells and fire and harassment from various German patrols. The enemy was harassing fire on point 1205. They used to name the different areas, numbers. It says, Private First Class Bill Eberle, a forward observer for the 133rd Battalion, never slept at all during his 6 days and nights at point 1205. But lack of sleep wasn't his main concern. It was lack of water. It says, Eberle licked moss and kept an eye open for the 5-gallon cans of water. So while I was there enjoying my time, he was licking moss to get moisture. So it just really helped me understand who he was and appreciate him for who he was. Just a man of character.
Very nice, man.
Thanks.